face off against the Nationals tonight at American Family Field in the final series before the All-Star break. D.L. Hall going to open for the Crew before giving way to Quinn Priester on the mound. Priester comes in 6-2 with a 3.59 ERA. He's coming off a rough outing against Florida his last time out when he gave up 5 runs. Washington will send Mitchell Parker to the bump. He's 5-9 with a 4.72 ERA. His last outing against Boston, also a rough one. He gave up 9 runs, though just 4 were earned. First pitch is set for 7:10. Turning to the Bucks, they're going to continue Summer League action tomorrow as they take on Cleveland out in Las Vegas. Milwaukee beat the Nuggets last night on a buzzer beater. Meanwhile, Wisconsin continues its offseason workouts. Among those going through them, junior Nolan Winter. He's going to be counted on to lead the front court this fall, something that assistant coach Joe Kravinoff believes he can do, assuming he continues to put on some weight.
Depends on how many steak dinners and good protein that Jim Schneider and our strength staff can put on him, because the bigger and stronger he gets, the more production you're going to see. I mean, he's just so talented. It's just getting his body and his strength up to speed with his ability, because there is no ceiling for him. He can be a really, really good player.
Announced today, the Badgers will face Villanova at Fiserv Forum on December 19th as part of the Milwaukee Hoops Showdown.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Rural Mutual Insurance is a proud sponsor of the Wisconsin State Fair. As a thank you for your support, they're giving away State Fair tickets. Visit ruralmutual.com/win and enter to win State Fair tickets.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, Packers training camp just 12 days out. Going to get things going July 23rd with the first of 14 practices open to the public. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
We did a lot of great things. Statistically, one of the better offenses. It doesn't feel like that right now because we've had some poor performances towards the back half of the season.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Matt LaFleur back in January. I had to dig through a mountain of Mike Clemens emails to find that. And that wasn't even the soundbite I was looking for. You remember Matt LaFleur's comment in his end-of-season presser when he was asked, well, fans are kind of frustrated because it felt like you guys lost all of your big games, like your division games, your games against the Eagles. What would you say about that? And Matt LaFleur kind of gave a non-committal answer. He's like, well, in this league, all games are big, which by the way is correct. I totally understand his point of view there, but also, if we're being completely genuine, the division games are a little bit bigger, games against the elite competition a little bit bigger, and that's where the Packers really struggled last year. So that was the comment I was looking for. Hand up, I could have gone back and went through the entire press conference. The problem is the end-of-season press conferences are 40 minutes long, and I'm like, this is not how I need to spend my time today. That comment will be fine. Just a comment, a generic comment about the Packers' shortcomings from last year from Matt LaFleur. I dug that up and included it because I want to begin with the Packers today. And that kind of sets the stage. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. I hope you've had a great week. Happy Friday. It is a Fins Up Friday. Appreciate you never missing a Friday show. It's also a Free Phones Friday. I think the Friday, we have a little bit, we have too much tied up in Friday. We need something for Tuesday or Wednesday. We have the Monday mailbag. The problem is Friday it's a very easy day. There's a lot of words that start with F. I was at the gym the other night. I told you I've been going to the gym. Because work pays for a gym member. It's a nice gym, so I want to take advantage of that. And there's a sign by the door that says Free Friend Friday. You can bring a friend on Friday if you remember. And I'm like, did I come up with? Okay, yeah, that wasn't. I thought it was did I come up with that? Did I forget that? That seems like something that I would come up with. So Friday, I understand. Free Phones Friday. If you need it explained to you, because last week I got a tweet from someone what the hell does that even mean? Every day is all you do is take calls. Okay, true, because that's what Sports Talk Radio is. Well, how's Friday any different? First of all, shut up. Second of all, Free Phones Friday means we could be in the middle of a segment talking about the Brewers. You want to talk about the Bucks? Call in. We'll talk about the Bucks. You want to talk about the Badgers? Call in. We'll talk about the Badgers. It's wide open. The phones are always free in that you can always call. Friday is different in that the topic it's liberated completely on Friday. So we can bounce from topic to topic, from team to team, just like that. So if you're like, I wish Grant would talk a little bit more about this. There you go. All the phone lines are open. I'll come to you in the first segment if you're ready to chat. 608-321-1670. But my opening take is on the Packers. So we haven't talked a lot about the Packers last couple of weeks. And I assure you, it's not because I don't want to talk about the Packers. I still think, and Bill swears by this, and I'm pretty sure he's right. And Bill's been doing this a long time at a very high level, and he can look at the numbers and prove this out. I'm just speaking anecdotally. I still think Packers talk on sports talk radio reaches the most people. I know the Brewers are a very statewide team. A lot of people like to talk about the Brewers, but 2 full hours of Brewers talk, even during baseball season, is a lot. So I like mixing in Packers talk, but I have been struggling the last couple of weeks. It's like, Jesus, there's no drama. Like, we can do 5 minutes on the Elton Jenkins contract, but like, are people going to want to call in and talk about that? No. And I understand the whole point isn't to get people to call in, but I like topics and I like conversations that, can extend past me just yelling about it for a couple of minutes. I've really been struggling to come up with any Packers topics. If I could come up with any, trust me, we would be talking more Packers. We had Peter Bukowski on Bill's show earlier today, and the first question out of the chute from Bill to Peter was, all right, training camp is less than 2 weeks away. I think he said 12 days. I don't know, but it's within 2 or 3 weeks. It's very close. And he said, Peter, what's on your checklist? What are you looking forward to most? What are you most excited to see at Packers training camp? And I'm sitting back here in the studio like, oh, good. I can steal something from Peter. Peter, just give me one thing that we can look forward to. And then I can bring that to the show tonight and we can talk about that. All right, Peter, don't let me down. Here was his answer.
Well, I think the problem for this team is I don't know that we're gonna be able to see anything until the games start in terms of the checklist per se. And if you ask some fans, I don't know about you, Bill, but I heard from a lot of fans this offseason about their frustration with this team in these divisional games, in these big games against the best teams. I don't think they're going to be able to prove progress until they get into those moments. And we've seen this with teams before, like those 2021 Packers. Like, we would have never said, like, oh, are we going to see progress there? No, we're waiting till January to see.
So I'll give you the rest of his answer, but I heard this year. I'm like, oh, God. Peter hosts the Locked On Packers podcast. If you're not familiar with the Locked On podcast network, it is, I believe, their slogan, or one of their slogans, is your team every day. If Peter has nothing and says, well, I don't know, until the game start, I don't know that we're going to learn or be able to see anything. It's like, okay, well, then I should just go home. Like, if Peter can't do it, man, like, well, how am I supposed to come up with a topic? I think he's right, by the way. And the 2021 Packers are a very good example. I remember the 2021 Packers very well because after that loss to the Buccaneers, I was kind of out. Not in that I had resigned my Packers fandom and I'm like, I'm done with Aaron Rodgers, get rid of him. I wasn't done like that. Something clicked with me after that game where it just kind of felt like the Aaron Rodgers Packers are not getting back to another Super Bowl. If it wasn't going to happen there, it's not happening. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Even if Aaron Rodgers comes back, like, it's not happening. They had Tom Brady at home at Lambeau as the 1 seed. Now, there weren't any fans there because, God forbid, Brady goes on the road and plays in actual full stadiums. That's something that I'll be annoyed with the rest of my life, but whatever. If it's not happening, it's not happening. Then it's not going to happen. And I remember watching the 2021 Packers. Rodgers won a friggin' MVP that year. And for most of the season, I'm like, okay, all right. And I remember the bye week. They had a bye week before playing the 49ers. And I remember the week of that Niners game, watching the video that the Packers social media department put out and saying, okay, I'm in. And that was the first week of January. I zombie walked through that entire season, not buying in really to anything, not believing in anything, not really trusting anything. I said, I guess when we get to the playoffs, maybe you can pull me back in. And I was in for about 4 days. And then I almost swore. And then they did a bodily function into their pants, and they lost a game at home where their defense did not give up a touchdown. Right? So the 2021 Packers, I think, are a great comp. This season's Packers, I don't think, let alone in training camp, maybe not in the first month of the season even, are going to be able to show us or prove anything to us. Now, this regular season has a little bit of an advantage in that regard, in that week 1 is Detroit, and week 2 is Thursday night short week against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, who exploded onto the scene last year. So we're not going to have to wait until November or December. We're going to get true tests in week 1 and week 2. But week 1 and week 2, as we stand here on July 11th, are a long way away. So I'll play you the rest of Peter's answer here of some things that he, is tangentially at least looking for in training camp. And then I can take your thoughts on this, or we can talk about something else. But I think he's right in that this team last year, their shortcomings were performances in their big, big games. And that's not something like, we're not going to come out of the first week of training camp like, you know what? I think I feel better about their chances of beating the Eagles. I think I feel better about their chances against the Rams or the Vikings. No, that's not happening. So here's the rest of Peter's answer. He did give a couple good details of things that we can watch for in camp, but they're not exactly sexy stories that move the needle.
Like, we would have never said, like, oh, are we going to see progress there? No, we're waiting till January to see the progress. And I think we may not be quite there with this team, but I think we're getting close. The difference this year, I think, is you're bringing in some pretty big new pieces. You're replacing Jair Alexander with Nate Hobbs is a big change. Using a first-round pick on Matthew Golden and then a third-round pick on Savion Williams, you want to see right away how the Packers are going to deploy those guys. Can Matthew Golden step right into that Christian Watson role and be that vertical stretcher for this offense? I want to see that ASAP. Is he going to play in the preseason? Like, are we even going to see Matthew Golden play football outside of family night until week 1? That's part of the problem with all this. But we will get the reports from training camp. There will be occasionally a video that comes out. Like, we'll get some information here. But what you want to hear is that the rookies don't seem behind, that, Jordan Morgan looks like he's actually competing with Rasheed Walker at left tackle, or looks good enough that he's probably going to win that right guard job. Like, it's kind of those, it's more on the margins, those sort of things. And then everyone stay healthy. Like, you need your A guys to stay healthy.
So moves on the margins and stay healthy. You guys ready for training camp? That get you going, Packers fans? Your thoughts? 608-321-1670. The Jordan Morgan thing is real, and I'll give you some thoughts on that. That might be my biggest ticket item that I'm watching for at training camp. But again, does that make it move for you on July 11th? Probably not. Let's take a call again. Free phones Friday. If that's all the Packers you want to talk, we could move to Bucks. We can move to Brewers. We can do whatever. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Fins up Friday, Finn. How's it going, buddy?
I knew it was you, Denny and Holman. It's going good. How about you?
Well, I've been doing a lot of listening to your stuff. It's just not that I didn't call in. A few times it's been kind of hard to get, call in and stuff. But what do you expect? You're a busy man with a good show.
Well, I appreciate that, Denny. You're too kind.
So, I heard some rumblings about the Packers and Rasul Douglas and Jadeveon Clowney.
So I saw something about Rasul Douglas. He posted something, I think, on his Instagram. He posted a picture. Right. No, on his TikTok. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. He's on his TikTok about him in a Packers jersey, and it's captioned love with a football emoji.
And then I heard something, too, with Clowney that Tennessee was looking to get rid of him, and then they were going to Dobbs was brought up in the conversation. The Packers would give up Dobbs.
For Clowney? Ugh.
I don't know.
I mean, I'd rent Jadeveon Clowney for a year, I guess. I don't think that's going to wholesale change the reality on their defensive front. I'll take another rotational pass rusher, sure. That's kind of his lot in life. That's kind of his career, is just bounce around year to year and be that rotational pass rusher.
I mean, I remember what they did to the Badgers in the Rose Bowl game. You know what I'm saying? Clowney just himself killed them,
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
But,
I don't know. But would you rather have, well, I'll ask you this. Would you rather have Rasul Douglas or Jadeveon Clowney? I'd rather have Douglas.
I'd rather have Douglas, because he already knows the system, and we knew what we had with him, and we knew when we got rid of him that was a huge mistake.
So the Rasul Douglas, okay, I appreciate it, Denny. I appreciate it. It's nice to hear from you. So first of all, where'd Jadeveon go? Didn't he go to South Carolina? I think you have him mistaken for somebody else. They never played. He did his whole career at South Carolina. I don't think he ever played Jadeveon Clowney. I remember him exploding that Michigan running back. I remember that. I'd take Jadeveon Clowney for a year, I guess. I don't think it wholesale changes the fortunes of that D-line. I'd take Rasul Douglas in a heartbeat. Looking back, I have no problem with them trading Rasul Douglas for a third-round pick when they did. That team looked like they sucked. Like that was immediately following losses to the Raiders, a loss to the Broncos. At that moment in time in that season, it looked like the Packers might suck. It looked like Jordan Love might not be any good. And Rasul Douglas is a veteran player. If you can get a third-round pick for him and the Packers are going to have to continue rebuilding, go off. Of course, knowing what we know now, yeah, you'd probably go back and you'd undo that trade. They also spent that pick on Teron Hopper. And I don't know if Teron Hopper's any good. If he was anything special behind the scenes, like getting ready to pop in year 2, they probably wouldn't have extended Isaiah McDuffie or re-signed him. And they may have not signed Isaiah Simmons. I don't know. But a lot of people, in fact, I just looked up Rasul Douglas on Twitter because I was like, I saw a picture and it was on his TikTok. And then Zach Jacobson was, making fun of the Packers for trading Rasul Douglas for a third-round pick they used on a linebacker. Okay, whatever. If that pick doesn't work out, that moment in time where the Packers looked like they sucked, trading away Rasul Douglas for a third rounder to a contender, I'm fine with that deal. I know it didn't age well, but when it happened at the time, I thought it was perfectly fine. I don't know that there's a lot of roster restructuring to go on right now. I can look more into Jadeveon Clowney. We're in a period of the summer now where teams have made surprise cuts in the past. Packers fans, you know this better than anybody. I don't remember exactly when Mike Daniels and Josh Sitton and those guys were cut, but I think it was somewhere in here. I remember the day Mike Daniels was cut. I was probably listening to Bill. I was listening to some sports talk show and I was staining a deck and it was in Shelby. So like southeast of La Crosse. It was a deck around a pool. It was a very small deck. And I remember my boss being like, yeah, when I booked this job, we didn't have a lot of work. It was a small job. It wasn't going to pay a whole lot. I remember I was rolling what's the term for so if you have a deck, you have the railing and then you have the floorboards. And then along the edge, you have those individual, like, I don't know. They're not are they 1x4s? I don't even know. And you got to roll them all individually. They're a pain in the ass. And I remember hearing on the radio that Mike Daniels is gone. I was like, holy crap. We are in that period of the summer, right? Where guys like that sometimes become available. And Jadeveon Clowney is probably the premier name. He's the number one guy where it's like, yeah, he's going to get cut and go sign somewhere else for a year and be a rotational piece and kind of helpful. But that's about it. I mean, I'd take him. I think the Packers pass rush is going to be defined by Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kenny Clark, and how he bounces back from that toe, and Devontae Wyatt. And you can futz around on the fringes. Like, hopefully Enigbari has a nice year, and if you add a depth piece or one of the rookies. But I think mostly it's how good will Gary be? How good will Van Ness be? And is Kenny Clark washed, or was he hurt all of last year? That's what's going to define this defensive front. I guess if you add Clowney, I'd rather have more guys than fewer. But you also just drafted 3 guys on day 3 who you hope to be contributors on the defensive front. So do you want to block them for the sake of having Jadeveon Clowney for a year? I would say probably not. Or knowing the Packers school of thinking, at least I would say probably not. That doesn't seem like something the Packers would want to do. I'm not even really sure that I have an opinion on it. 608-321-1670. One more call and then we'll take a break here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? It's an excellent call. Very additive. We'll take a break, come back in 3 minutes. More of your calls. I have some Bucks audio I want to get to, some Brewers takes specifically with the trade deadline players that may or may not be available. So more from you next at 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Well, I think the problem for this team is I don't know that we're gonna be able to see anything until the games start in terms of the checklist per se. And if you ask some fans, I don't know about you, Bill, but I heard from a lot of fans this offseason about their frustration with this team in these divisional games, in these big games against the best teams. I don't think they're going to be able to prove progress until they get into those moments. And we've seen this with teams before, like those 2021 Packers. Like we would have never said like, oh, are we going to see progress there? No, we're waiting till January to see the progress. And I think we may not be quite there with this team, but I think we're getting close.
One more time, that's Pete Bukowski on Bill's show earlier today when asked, hey, what's your checklist for training camp? What are you watching for? And Pete goes, I don't know. I don't know that we're going to be able to learn or discern anything until the games actually start. Luckily for this year's Packers team, unlike the 2021 team, which I think is a great comparison for reasons that I explained in the first segment, they have tests right away. Like we're not going to have to wait until January. We might have to wait until week 1, until they play the Lions, but that's a legit test. Week 2 against the Commanders, that's a legit test. So while we won't probably get a good beat on this group in late July or in August, we will in September in a way that in 2020 we didn't. Again, I cruise controlled through that entire season. I don't remember buying in to that team until the week before they shart down their pants against the Knights. That's one of the worst. We don't badmouth that team enough. That was embarrassing. Like losing to Tom Brady at home, I guess. Like we bellyache about Kevin King, and that game could have been won. That 2021 loss to the Niners was frigging embarrassing. And I bought into them 3 or 4 days beforehand like a sucker because the Packers posted this cool video on Twitter that was narrated by Aaron Rodgers, right? So this season, there are some parallels in that we're going to have to wait and see until the real test. But unlike 2021, I think the real test for this is week 1. Because I know what folks are going to say on Monday if the Packers lose that game. We're going to pick up right where we left off last December, last January, when the Packers were good, but not good enough or not great enough to beat the teams that mattered most. By the way, I was talking about painting in segment 1. Spindles. That was the word I was looking for. The spindles. The individual. I don't know. I don't know my lumber dimensions. If those are 1x4s or 1x1s or whatever. They're about probably 2 inches by 2 inches tops. And you got to roll them all individually. Mike Daniels, by the way, I was about a week or about 10 days off. He was cut July 24th in 2019. Holy smokes. Feels like ancient history. Jadeveon Clowney, by the way, I couldn't remember. He's been a street free agent since May. So if you Google Jadeveon Clowney and then insert your team name, you will find a story or a blog by somebody that's like, this is why the Packers should sign Jadeveon Clowney. It's very unpackers-ish. They just drafted 3-day guys to hopefully be part of the next wave of young defensive linemen. It would be very unpackers-like to go get a guy to stand in the way of those cats. So that's how I began the show. What you're looking forward to most in training camp. I think Jordan Morgan is probably item number 1 for me. I can get to that in a couple minutes. But it's the Free Phones Friday. So if you want to talk baseball or Bucks Summer League last night, Miles Turner, I think his introductory press conference is taking place right now. I got a little audio from Doc at last night's game. Everything's on the board. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Evening, Grant. Tim from Sparta here.
Tim from Sparta. Good evening, Tim. I'm going to be driving through your beautiful neck of the woods tomorrow. I'm probably going to come from underneath. I thought about coming on 90. I'm going to Viroqua, but I think I'm going to take 14 the whole way and go through the rolling hills and the valleys down there. So I'll just miss you.
Yeah, that's all right. My trout stream will remain safe for me.
Yeah, your hidden lair, as Eric on I-90 likes to say, your secret lair.
Well, I have a 20-acre parcel of which the north boundary is a quarter mile of Class A trout stream.
Oh, now
brook trout stream.
Oh, a native fish. I do like brook trout.
Yes, hard to catch.
Very hard to catch, but oh so beautiful, aren't they?
Yes, they are, and they're tasty too.
Yeah, you're damn straight they are. Well, do you want to talk Packers or what's on your mind tonight, Tim and Sparta?
Well, I was going. Davian Clowney has been a bust his entire existence. He got so much hype for one tackle on one running back where he was unblocked and blows the guy up. Now
he quite literally blew him up, like he did. Yeah. You say, well, he blew up the play. No, he physically blew that guy away.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're 270 pounds and you have a 7-yard running start at somebody who's just been handed the ball, you're going to destroy him.
Yeah. It's the laws of physics, Tim.
Yes, and I was never worth a damn at physics, but I know what my eyes tell me.
Yeah, right.
He's a bust. So nothing for him. Rasul Douglas, I think he would be fine to come back. I wouldn't have any trouble with that at all. I think that the most interesting thing for me is going to be how this offensive line shakes out, because they have a chance to be one of the great offensive lines next year.
And they should be really deep too. They should be great at the top end, and then they should have a lot of secondary options, one would hope or think.
Yeah, that they can slot in if they get somebody hurt, as opposed to who in the hell are we going to play now?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really interested in. I was certain that Van Ness was going to be a player, but at this point, you got to prove it to me. I'm not holding out much hope for him now. And the back end, I think, is going to be fine. It's really all going to depend on your throwaway comment of, was Kenny Clark, is he done or was he just hurt?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest deciding factors of how good this Packers defense will be.
Yep, because he was obviously hurt all of last year. He just couldn't do anything. And so I think that if he comes back with all the stuff that he's had done in the offseason and can play again, I'm not worried about the defense. I am worried about what the offensive makeup is going to be. Is Love fully healthy? Is he going to be able to throw the ball accurately downfield with pressure in his face? Is he going to make stupid decisions again? Or is he going to have been behind a center enough to make the correct decisions in the tough time?
Yeah.
So if those things happen, then Green Bay's is probably gonna go 11, and 6. If they don't, they could be as bad as 8 and 9.
Okay. So kind of a little floor and ceiling there, Tim. That's a good call. You gave us a lot to chew on. I think if they win 11 games this season with this schedule, this team's going to be awesome. That's a team that could go on a run. Like, that's a legit team if they win 11 games this year. And of course, we'll have to see what it looks like. But if they're able to match their record from last year against this schedule, right? And I think the division will be just as good, if not better. Maybe the Lions take a small step back. But I think the Vikings, the big question mark at quarterback, obviously. But that team and that coaching staff is legit. The Bears have to be better, even if it's just slightly better. And they almost beat the Packers twice last year. Now, I think it's a little overblown. The Packers should have lost the game in Chicago and then won the game at home. The results were just flipped. I think the 1-1, the split between the Packers and the Bears last year was deserved. I just think the games were kind of flip-flopped for fluky reasons. If the Packers can win 11 games this year, that's a legit team. Whereas in the past, I think legit teams, that's 12, 13 wins. I think an 11-win team could be a real juggernaut team with this schedule, the AFC North competition there, and then obviously the NFC North, you play all those two teams twice. Kenny Clark, I think, was he hurt or is he washed? Because if he's washed, I'm terrified at what this defensive front could look like. And look, people will tell you, well, they did a fine job scheming up pressures or simulating pressures. Sure. But then when they played teams like the Eagles and the Vikings, they couldn't sniff a quarterback. Couldn't even sniff Sam Darnold or Jalen Hurts. Not even close. So you can simulate your pressures against teams with lesser, pass protection units and lesser O-lines. Sure. But when it really gets down to brass tacks against the Eagles, the Vikings, the Lions, who lost some talent on that O-line, but still, when it gets down to brass tacks against teams like that, the Rams, another good one, I don't think that stuff works. You need guys who can one-on-one make plays. And I don't know that Rashawn Gary is always that guy. Lucas Van Ness definitely up until this point hasn't been that guy. And if Kenny Clark is just old and washed, I think this defensive line is probably even worse than last year. Unless one of these rookies, whether it be Barron Sorrell or Colin Oliver, is just a total stud. It's funny, Tim, you kept saying a couple times about how Jadeveon Clowney is such a bust. Jadeveon Clowney was drafted in 2014. He's been in the league for 10 years. I have a hard time saying that guy is a bust. And then my original thought, anytime we're talking about a player and what kind of career they've had, especially pertaining to their draft slot, because Jadeveon Clowney was the number 1 overall pick, I said, okay, well, who else was drafted? Who was drafted right behind them? And you look at the top couple picks, it's like, okay, so it went Jadeveon Clowney, Greg Robinson, tackle to the Rams, Blake Bortles to the Jags, Sammy Watkins to the Bills. Okay, well, he didn't, Jadeveon Clowney, it's not like he had a bunch of Hall of Famers go right behind him. But the 2014 draft, listen to this. Starting at pick number 5, Khalil Mack, Jake Matthews, Mike Evans, Justin Gilbert, selected by the Browns. Of course, he sucked. But then all the players behind him, Anthony Barr, Eric Ebron, Taylor Lewan, Odell Beckham Jr., Aaron Donald, Kyle Fuller, Ryan Shazier, whose injury was cut short but was very good, Zach Martin, CJ Mosley. That's a pretty good run of picks through, pick 5 through pick 20, something like that. Of course, the Packers then got HaHa Clinton Dix later on, who actually made a Pro Bowl. At least I think that's what the color coding on Wikipedia means. Jadeveon Clowney's had a fine career. Bust to me means you're out of football in 2 or 3 years. You don't get a second contract. The fact that Jadeveon Clowney's out there and teams are like, go get him, rent him for a year. That's kind of become his lot in life. He's like a reliever in the NFL almost. It's very un-Packers-ish. They just drafted 3 guys on day 3. I know they love Van Ness because they keep telling us. I know that Enigbari's been a nice player for them. Like, it would be very un-Packers like, be like, hey, let's bring in the corpse of Jadeveon Clowney as a rotational guy. This doesn't seem like them. Couple of texts before we take a break here. Jared and DeForest says, I'm excited to see what a first-round receiver looks like as he preps for his first game reps. I'm excited to see what year 2 Edgerrin Cooper looks like. I'm awaiting, likely for not, the final big name to come in. Goody's still got a few days to pull something off. Why not hope? Hey, you can do that. It's more than fair. A baseball text that I'm going to get to on the other side. We can talk a little baseball. I don't think Alex Bregman is an option. Is there a bat to add? Isaiah Keener-Falefa? He can't slug. Is that a different Isaac Collins? Probably. Any thoughts? Let's talk Brewers, Packer, Oeza. Let's do that. We can transition. We can talk a little Brewers baseball on the other side, and I'll welcome your calls on anything, but I will shift my focus to the Brewers. I got some sound, not just from Brandon Woodruff, but Ken Rosenthal on just that, the idea of an Alex Bregman trade. We'll be back just a couple minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. We talked Packers for 2 segments. Thank God that's over. Get back to what really matters. Fake deadline deals for the Brewers. Deals that'll never happen. It's fine. We can get into that. And it's a Free Phones Friday, so anything that's on your mind, we can talk more Packers. We can debate further whether or not Jadeveon Clowney is a bust. Rick on the live stream says Clowney didn't meet his pick's expectation. If he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick, we'd see him differently, or a 2nd or 3rd overall pick. I don't know, man. He's been a good pass rusher. Sometimes a guy goes 1st overall, like Cam Ward. If Cam Ward is a starter for 8 or 9 years as an NFL quarterback, trying to think of who's a guy who started for a while and then he just didn't quite cut the mustard, so he became a backup. I can't think of a quarterback version of that. Like sometimes there's just no clear-cut superstar at number 1. And I think that was probably the 2014 draft. What's funny is there were a ton of guys behind him in the first round, starting at like pick number 5, who you would have been thrilled to take at number 1, like Khalil Mack or Mike Evans or Odell Beckham or Aaron Donald. Jesus. But for whatever reason, teams do this all the time in the draft, and they've wised up, I think, a little bit with quarterbacks, where it's like, well, we like him a lot, but we can't take him 10th overall. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. But you'd take him 22nd? Well, then why can't you take him 10th? And teams have figured that out with quarterbacks, like Bo Nix. The Broncos obviously liked him a lot. But in the past, I think teams, well, we like Bo Nix, but we can't take him 14th. Sure you can. If he's your franchise quarterback, then you could take him 3rd overall. You know what I mean? You either think he's your franchise quarterback or you're not. There's no player in the world at quarterback, at least, where it's like, well, we like him at 25, but not that much at 15. Okay, well, then you don't like him enough, period. Take someone else. And with certain positions, like I agree that, premium picks at the top of the draft, I don't want to use that on a running back or on a safety or on a guard unless it's like Quentin Nelson. It's okay. Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end, pass rusher from an SEC school, first overall. Yeah. He hasn't been a superstar, but he's been a good player and he's had a long career. Has he, lived up to the billing of some other number 1 overall picks? No, but he's certainly outlasted many of them. If you go back through, why are we debating this? It's so funny what we get hung up on this show. Talking about Packers training camp. It's like, well, Jadeveon Clowney's a bust, and here we are discussing it, 42 minutes into the show. We had a couple Brewers texts before. Eau Claire Chris says Jimmy Garoppolo. That's a great example. Guy who started for a while, was fine, was more than fine, almost won a Super Bowl. And then they realized, like, not really. This text says, I don't think Alex Bregman is an option. Well, I think you're right. But because it's Sports Talk Radio, let's pick at it a little bit. This is Ken Rosenthal, who wrote about this today at The Athletic, and I'll read that for you in a second. But he was on Foul Territory with Eric Kratz, and Eric Kratz asked him, like, hey, hasn't Alex Bregman been a mentor to the young guys on the Red Sox that are bringing up a lot of these top prospects? Isn't there a lot of value there? And doesn't that make it more likely that he stays in Boston despite all these trade rumors?
Eric, that's why they signed him in the first place. They knew they had these kids coming, and they wanted Bregman to serve in that leadership role. And we have another story on The Athletic today by Jen McCaffrey, who covers the Red Sox for us, about just the impact Bregman has made on players as individuals and as a collective. This guy is all about baseball all the time. He sees things on the field. He imparts that wisdom to his teammates. So, yes, they're going to want to keep him, and they're going to want to keep him for just the reasons you stated. They don't have many established veterans on their team. And not only is he an established veteran, he brings that extra intangible, that knowledge of the game, that savviness that, frankly, is in short supply today. So I don't know how it gets done, if it gets done, when it gets done, but it's something the Red Sox certainly are going to pursue.
So Alex Bregman, if you're not familiar, very good third baseman. He's won World Series. He was with that Astros team for a while, and he signed with the Red Sox this offseason. And it's a deal that's basically a 1-year deal with 2 player options. Like, you can pick up your option at the end of this year or go to free agency. You can pick up the next year. So it's basically a 1+1+1 from the player perspective. It's not a club option. It's a player option or a mutual option. So Rosenthal at The Athletic today, why trading Alex Bregman makes no sense for the Red Sox, plus more MLB notes. Okay, it might not make sense for the Red Sox, but I can point you to 2 transactions that the Red Sox have made in the last 5 years with players both better than Bregman that also didn't really make any sense. Trading away Mookie Betts made very little sense to many people. Trading away Rafi Devers about a month ago didn't make a ton of sense for some. I think that move is more reasonable than many first reacted, at first blush. He's kind of fat. He's a little bit of a problem. Doesn't play the field very well. Not a great team player and makes a ton of money. Okay, so you can get off that fine. Why trading Alex Bregman makes no sense. I agree with everything Rosenthal writes here, but sometimes it's not wise to assign logic and reasoning to people who have not proven to be logical or reasoned. And I think whether it be Chaim Bloom with the Red Sox previously or now Craig Breslow, who's running the thing, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't mean that he won't do it. At least I'm hoping, because I would really like the Brewers to get Alex Bregman. It's that time of year. Trade season, silly season. Take your pick, writes Ken Rosenthal. The Rafael Devers blockbuster is probably the biggest deal that will go down. But the temptation is there to ponder other earth-shaking possibilities, no matter how remote. This is so funny to me. Like, Shams Charania has been banging a Giannis trade drum the entire offseason, really without any evidence at all, at least that we know of, to think that that's going to happen. And here's Ken Rosenthal as we approach the trade deadline. This isn't the offseason, this is a trade deadline. And he's like, I mean, the biggest moves probably already happened, but I guess we could dream. It's very funny. It's a very different approach. The possibility of the Boston Red Sox trading third baseman Alex Bregman is remote. So remote, you'd sooner see a certain 5'4" reporter in a bow tie dunking on the 7'3" Victor Wembanyama. He's talking about himself. He's very short and he wears bow ties. Bregman's name, though, keeps appearing in various deadline previews. As wishful thinking goes, it's right there with the Colorado Rockies avoiding, 120 losses. He's speaking to the negative chance that this is going to happen, basically. For the Red Sox, trading Bregman makes no sense, even if they cannot sign him to an extension before the deadline, even if they stumble while facing a difficult schedule over the next 3 weeks. The Sox are trying to make the playoffs. They're in strong position after winning their 7 straight game Thursday night, 1 game ahead of the Mariners for the final wildcard spot, and 5 games behind Toronto in the AL East. This is what's funny. They're not like they're 1 good week, and the Jays are 1 bad week away from them being right there in the East, as Bregman's returning. He's missed like almost 50 games now, I think. 43. He writes it in the next paragraph. As the Athletic's Jen McCaffrey writes, Bregman is a leader who influenced teammates individually and collectively, even while spending the past 43 games on the injured list. You don't trade such a player. They traded Mookie Betts, though, and that's that's what I keep coming back to. You sign him long-term, and you do it in the offseason when such business normally takes place. Finding the appropriate value for Bregman in a trade would be difficult, if not impossible. Executives talk all the time about how difficult it is to line up on even minor deals. Bregman's contract, which gives him the ability to opt into $40 million in salaries in 26 and 27, would complicate matters considerably. It is a complicated deal. I don't really give any credence to, lining up a deal like this would be impossible. Okay, but you could say that about, any big-time player that gets moved, because it's going to take a lot of prospects and money's changing hands. Like, yeah, putting together this deal would be tricky, and the contract certainly makes it trickier. But you could say that about just about every trade. Perhaps a team would be willing to absorb the $13 million or so left on Bregman's salary if it was believed that he would opt out after the season. Taking that risk, though, would be borderline reckless. Bregman, who is coming off the IL without going on a rehab assignment, could suffer a major injury, with the recovery process extending into next season. The acquiring team then would be in the same precarious situation the Red Sox face with Bregman, the non-zero chance of getting stuck with a physically compromised player for at least 1 more year at $40 million. Now trying to figure out what a club would give up for Bregman. Even while injured, he was elected by his fellow players to the All-Star game, but as a $13 million rental, he would only bring back so much. True, the Red Sox could kick in money to enhance the return to what end? I would not bet the Red Sox doing that. They didn't do it with Rafi Devers, which is a much better opportunity to do so and actually get a return. The Sox have enough prospects. What they need is a number 2 starter and bullpen help in addition to Bregman. After saving $255 million in the Devers trade, they need not engage in buy-sell scenarios. They should be buyers, period. Again, I agree with what Rosenthal is writing. The Red Sox should not trade Bregman. Slip of the tongue. They probably should have traded Devers. They shouldn't have traded Mookie Betts, and they did that. The Brewers shouldn't have traded Hader in 22. It happens. For all the criticism he received for the Devers mess, Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow hit on virtually all his offseason additions. Left-hander Garrett Crochet, reliever Aroldis Chapman, they're both all-stars, and Carlos Narvaez, who would also be a worthy selection. The one disappointment, righty Walker Buehler has been somewhat better his last 2 starts, but imagine the Red Sox adding the best starter they could find in a thin market to Crochet, the resurgent Lucas Giolito, Brian Bayo, and Hunter Dobbins, who returns from the IL Friday. Maybe outfielder Jarren Duran, who's under club control for 3 additional seasons, could help pry loose a starter of comparable service. If not, the Sox could simply press forward with their surplus of quality young position players. Most teams would love to be in their position. Again, I agree with all of this, but that doesn't mean that the Red Sox won't do it because they're the Red Sox. They have surprised people plenty of times throughout the year. Jarren Duran has been mentioned in all sorts of trade conversations, and I'm not familiar with his game. He is about the opposite of what the Brewers typically look for. He smokes the ball very hard. His hard hit percentage is high. His bat speed is high. He chases a lot. He whiffs a lot. he strikes out a lot and he doesn't walk very often. He's the antithesis of Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin, and everything else they look for. So I was thinking, well, maybe the Red Sox won't trade Bregman, but Duran might be a player they look to move again for pitching, and the Brewers have that in spades to supply. I just don't know. I just don't know that Jarren Duran is the type of hitter that they want. But then again, maybe they need one of those guys who could actually hit for some power. How many home runs does he have this year? He's got 8. Yeah, I don't know that that's going to make it move. He's fast. He's a great fielder, and he's a great base runner, so that would help. But I don't exactly know that there's a Jarren Duran possibility in Milwaukee. Then again, the Red Sox have surprised us before, so have the Brewers. I understand that it would make no sense for the Red Sox to trade Bregman. Sometimes it makes no sense for teams to do what they do, and they do it anyways. So I'm not going to get bogged down in assigning logic and reason to illogical or unreasonable parties in the Red Sox, especially with Breslow. I mean, going back even before Breslow to Mookie Betts, that's a team that I would try to trade with. It worked out well with Priester, even though they paid a premium. It's worked out. We can continue the show. I'll get to some of your texts and thoughts on the Brewers trade deadline possibilities, all that jazz in our final segment of hour number 1.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Eric, that's why they signed him in the first place. They knew they had these kids coming, and they wanted Bregman to serve in that leadership role. And we have another story on The Athletic today by Jen McCaffrey, who covers the Red Sox for us, about just the impact Bregman has made on players as individuals and as a collective. This guy is all about baseball all the time. He sees things on the field. He imparts that wisdom to his teammates. So yes, they're going to want to keep him, and they're going to want to keep him for just the reasons you stated. They don't have many established veterans on their team. And not only is he an established veteran, he brings that extra intangible, that knowledge of the game, that savviness that, frankly, is in short supply today. So I don't know how it gets done, if it gets done, when it gets done, but it's something the Red Sox certainly are going to pursue.
It's Ken Rosenthal one more time on Foul Territory. The clincher of his story that really puts any Bregman trade rumors to bed. And again, Ken Rosenthal can dump on the idea and call the idea of a Bregman trade stupid. Sure. Sometimes teams do stupid things, right? Saying that it would be illogical for Aaron Rodgers to do XYZ. It's like, okay, but are we sure that Aaron Rodgers always does, the logical thing? Sometimes you can't assign logic or reason to someone who's illogical or someone who's unreasonable. Rosenthal clinched his story. I didn't read this part. Bregman in his 10th season is critical to the equation, both on and off the field. His return comes at a perfect time. He's back in the lineup tonight. With the Sox finally rounding into form, even if they go 5-10 in their final 15 games before the deadline, the way they are rolling, they will likely still be in contention with a flawed AL. Anyone waiting for a Bregman trade should also be waiting for me to posterize Victor Wembanyama. One notion is as preposterous as the other. Fine. We'll pick this up on Monday. Hopefully I can find anything over the weekend that'll justify more drum beating for the Brewers to try to go get Alex Bregman. But at least for tonight, fine. I can lay my saber down. That's fine. It's a Free Phones Friday, which will continue right after 5 o'clock when we get Zach's update. The Wisco Sports Show presented by La Crosse Beer House. Corner of 3rd and Pearl. I might go there on Saturday night because I'm going to go spend the weekend over on that side of the state just because I'm bored and I want to. And I think me and a buddy are going to kick around 3rd Street on Saturday night, assuming we feel right, and we'll certainly stop at the Beer House. And you should do the same for their authentic German food. Their brats are outstanding. If you don't want to sit down and get a big fish fry or get a big German meal, you just I want a snack to have with my beer. We'll get a delicious brat. They source them from Bubba's Meats, which is just on the south side of town. Used to buy meat there all the time. Excellent in its own right. But when you combine that meat with some of the authentic German beers and those big windows downtown that they open up and you could sit outside in the summer, it is excellent. And we appreciate their support of the show. In the past, anytime that we've wanted to go to spring training or take a trip to the Super Bowl or whatever, they're always on board. So we appreciate those folks. Again, corner 3rd and Pearl. So please support them. Be a great weekend to go down there. Now that the 4th of July is come and gone, things are quiet, at least for the next couple of weeks over there on the western side of the state. At least until we get about a month from now, we get Ashley for the Arts firing up. Brad Paisley, Darius Rucker. Stop. This text says, best trade scenario, trade Garrett Mitchell and Joey Ortiz to the Rockies for 3rd baseman Ryan McMahon. He falls in the price range if the Brewers have good power. Plus, you can get rid of an injury-prone player for a position player. You have ample players. Just get rid of Ortiz. You can do that without offering up any prospects. Why would the Rockies want to do that? That would be my question. Now, the Rockies should have done this in the offseason. The Brewers called on him in the offseason, per my sources, which are not exactly extensive, but if I can get a piece of information from more than one person, I'm likely to believe it. Ryan McMahon, when you say affordable, he's on a 6-year, $70 million contract. He sets to make $12 million this year and then $16 next year and $16 the year after. I mean, it's not $30 or $40 million a year, but let's not act like that's nothing for the Brewers. If he's awesome and produces at a really high level, then sure. But if he's just meh, like that's a contract that prevents you from doing a lot of other things. So let's not act like $16 million is a number that the Brewers can just turn their nose up at and say, that's fine. We can just pull that out of the couch cushions. We can go scrape that up in the euchre lot after people, stumble out and maybe drop some coins on their way back out to the car. So maybe Ryan McMahon. I don't understand why the Rockies would do it without prospects, except to unload the money. But I don't think the Rockies are cheap. I just think they're stupid, which is a dangerous combination. They should have tried to offload Ryan McMahon and his money in the offseason. They showed no interest. So I don't exactly know why it would be different now, unless they're like, well, we didn't think we'd suck this bad, which again, stupid. Hour number 2 next, right after Zach's update.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, after a day off, the Brewers will open up the final series before the All-Star break tonight as Washington visits American Family Field. Milwaukee enters winners of 4 straight, sitting just 2 games back to first place Chicago in the NL Central. They're coming off a sweep of the defending champion Dodgers, including a walk-off win on Wednesday. Brewers' efforts in the 3-game series left LA manager Dave Roberts impressed, especially how they find different ways to score.
They are. You know, it's a team that prevents runs really well. They play defense really well. Offensively, they just create havoc. They steal, they bunt, they hit and run. They don't break out much. You know, there's going to be balls in play. Pat does a good job with the roster as far as trying to maximize and create offense, with that ball.
DL Hall will open the game for the Crew before giving way to Quinn Priester. Priester comes in 6-2 with a 3.59 ERA. The Nationals counter with Mitchell Parker. He's 5-9 with a 4.72 ERA. First pitch is set for 7:10. Turning to the Bucks, they won their summer league opener with a buzzer beater last night against Denver. Back in action again tomorrow against Cleveland. As for Wisconsin, they announced today that they would face Villanova at Fiserv Forum on December 19th in what is being called the Milwaukee Hoops Showdown. Also, we play an exhibition game there against Oklahoma in October.
Rural Mutual Insurance is a proud sponsor of the Wisconsin State Fair. As a thank you for your support, they're giving away State Fair tickets. Visit ruralmutual.com/win and enter to win State Fair tickets.
Training camp continues to get closer and closer to the Packers. They're going to get things underway July 23rd with the first of 14 practices open to the public. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
We did a lot of great things. Statistically, one of the better offenses. It doesn't feel like that right now because we had some poor performances towards the back half of the season.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
All right, you want more on Ryan McMahon? I can do a couple more minutes. Third baseman possibility that Brewers fans have been talking about. Going back to the offseason, so I can give you some numbers. A very interesting player, the splits. The home and away are very interesting, month by month, very interesting. And the StatCast page is one of the more interesting ones you'll see as well. So we can talk about Ryan McMahon for a couple minutes. In fact, we can talk about whatever you want because it's a Free Phones Friday and the phone lines are wide open. So if you call and have anything on your mind, whether it be Packers, Brewers, Bucks, Badgers, anything. I watched a quarter of Summer League basketball last night. I didn't really enjoy it, but I didn't really expect to. I have some Doc Rivers audio from last night of the broadcast talking about his plans to play Giannis in certain forms and fashions. We can get in that. It's all you. You could set the agenda. You can take the show wherever you want it. 608-321-1670. The Brewers called, from what I heard, the Brewers called on Ryan McMahon in the offseason, and the Rockies wanted the world, which is a little surprising to me because the Rockies suck, and Ryan McMahon makes good money. He's going to make $16 million next year and then $16 the year after. That's not a small deal. And if I ran the Rockies and I could get prospects and I could get from out of that money, I would do it. The funny thing about the Rockies in the last going back to 2018 when it all kind of fell apart. They had a good team in 2018 and it's been downhill since. It's not because they're cheap. Like they traded away Nolan Arenado, and when a team does that, especially I wouldn't consider Denver a smaller market team, but like they're not LA, they're not New York, they're not Chicago, they're not Houston. Like typically when a player like that gets traded away, you think, well, they wanted out of the money, right? Like they couldn't play. It was too prohibitive. It was cost prohibitive to keep him. A franchise player too, like Nolan Arenado. But they immediately turned around and gave Chris Bryant a bag of money. Who's not durable. And I like Chris Bryant fine enough. He can play all over the place, but he's just dealt with injuries. Now I think he's still dealing with a back. I haven't even thought about him in a while. But like the Rockies, money out, money in. It's not a cheap thing. Like this offseason, if I ran the Rockies, like, how can we get out from the McMahon deal? I want off this money. I want to use this money elsewhere. And they wanted a steep price. Maybe that's changed. I don't know why it would have changed unless the Rockies thought they were going to be good this year. But I'd like to think that they have somebody in the front office with at least an ounce of foresight. Ryan McMahon. So the funny thing is, Ryan McMahon got off to a putrid start. His month of April was awful. He hit 126. He had 2 doubles, 2 home runs, just like a really miserable month of April. His May was pretty good. He hit 283, 4 home runs. His average dipped in June, but he had more home runs. He had 6 of them. He had 22 hits. Like, he had a pretty good month of June. July's just started. He's hitting, 097. I'm not going to take anything away from what amounts to how many games would that be now? 31 at bats. It's not a minuscule sample size, but it's not really a full month. He had a lot more power in May and June. He got off to a slow start. Maybe now he's tailing away now too. His StatCast profile, or I guess some of his measurables, like what he's good and what he's bad at. He hits the ball hard as piss. He barrels it up a ton. His hard hit percentage is very high, and his bat speed is moving. He takes a lot of walks. He doesn't chase too much. 67th percentile in chase. He whiffs a ton, and he strikes out a ton. He is in the first and second percentile of whiff and strikeout. So he hits the ball hard, really hard, and he takes his walks, and he doesn't chase, but he swings and misses a lot. That doesn't really fit what the Brewers want to do. But again, part of the reason we're talking about going for guys with power, part of the reason we're talking about trade deadline acquisition, ideas of guys who can hit home runs is because the Brewers have a lot of guys who hit for contact. And you want to throw a guy who adds something a little different. So would the Brewers be out on someone like Ryan McMahon because he doesn't fit their prototype? Or would they be in on Ryan McMahon because they want someone who brings something different to the table? This is kind of what we need to work through. Wisco Greaves, Tyler, and Mass points out something great. If you look at his home and away splits, and with Coors it matters, and out in Massachusetts, you would know with Trevor Story, home versus away at Coors is going to give you some, let's say, striking differences. It's a lot easier to hit for power at Coors than it is across. 215 hitters, 662 OPS away from Coors Field. Yeah, that would give me pause as well. And again, if Ryan McMahon made $3 million a year instead of 16 for this year, next year, and the year after, maybe this would be, maybe this would be a little bit more doable. I don't know that McMahon makes a ton of sense. I don't really know why the Rockies would have reason to move him now if they didn't want to move him at the beginning of the year. And I don't know why, like the last text that I got said trade Garrett Mitchell and Joey Ortiz for Ryan McMahon. I guess you can make the case. It's like, look, you get your everyday third baseman or shortstop back. Joey Ortiz can play a good third base. Change the scenery might be good for him. Put him in a smaller park where he can pop for power. Although it's not like American Family Field is some, massive ballpark. Like the ball flies pretty well there too. And you say, Garrett Mitchell's your lottery ticket. We'll eat the money, but we're not going to give you any high-level prospects. I guess maybe that's a deal that makes sense. I don't know that the player makes all that much sense for the Brewers. I think there's bits and pieces in there where if you squint, it could make sense, but I think there's as many red flags as there are green. 608-321-1670 to your calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Ed.
Ed!
How's it going?
It's going excellent. What's new with you?
I'm laying low. Not calling any other shows, just hanging out, listening to the man.
I do hear you on other shows from time to time. On other networks, too. Not this one. Competing shows.
But it's been a while. I've been kind of there's not a lot to chime in, but you kind of are hitting the chord because I keep hearing all this, we got to make a trade. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him get a bat. I just don't think this guy's the carrot. He's the right carrot. You're swinging for the fences and you're doing a lot of, what's that one former Brewer that struck out a lot? Deere.
Rob Deere, sure, yeah.
Rob Deere, man, he was always swinging for the fences. He hit the ball hard, but boy, he went up there, not very promising.
You know who loved Rob Deere, though? The ladies, they still love Rob Deere. Chicks dig the long ball. You ever heard that before?
I love Jerry Burnett.
No, sure.
Jerry Burnett was something.
Yeah, and I loved Orlando Arcia, but it sounds like nobody's getting what they want.
No. Orlando Arcia had his one big swing of the year against the Brewers.
One big swing of the year. He's had many over his career. Illustrious clutch hitter, big moment hitter, Orlando Arcia.
Right. But I think they'll be a little more frugal, and if they're going to give up Garrett Mitchell, that would be probably I don't know if that's a wash. I think Garrett still has an upside. It's just he has that one bug, like Watson for the Packers. He gets hurt all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you do
Watson's
with a
been
guy like that?
Watson's been good when he's healthy. And I feel like such an a-hole, Ed, because anytime Garrett Mitchell comes up, I feel the need to point out to everyone that, like, when he's been healthy, he hasn't been good. It's not like, well, if he could just stay healthy, he'd be the exact player that they need. No, he needs to get healthy and then get good. Like, we have multiple hoops to jump through to reach a point where Garrett Mitchell is a healthy contributing player for this team. But for the Rockies, it might make sense. Like, here's Ortiz. He replaces McMahon. Here's Garrett Mitchell, who's the lottery ticket. We'll take the money off your hands and we'll shake hands and move on. Like, maybe, but I don't even know that I want Ryan McMahon.
I don't think he's worth the money. I mean, what money
God,
he's going to be garnering? God, no.
The Brewers,
I
the Brewers shipped off Tyrone Taylor and Adrian Hauser to save like $3 and $4 million. You think they're like, well, Ryan McMahon's flawed, but I guess he only costs $16 million. They're not going to. They have no interest in that.
No, not at all. We're talking about Antanasio. He's the most frugal owner of all owners, and yet he pisses everybody off. But yet we still just keep winning because we have a good core team. And I do not want them to get rid of Frelick. I heard someone throwing Frelick out there as a possibility. No. You got to keep your core young men that are actually producing. These guys are producers. I'd say the ones that are sitting on the bed. Monasterio.
Yeah.
He would be someone I wouldn't have a problem losing.
Well, sure.
But I like Durbin, but they're all inconsistent. They're all like a mush of key players, a potpourri. You get hot one guy, the next guy goes cold.
Sure.
But they all step in at the right
Well,
time.
that's the bottom of the order. That's how bottom of the order hitters work. I like Durbin. I was not at all in on Durbin his first couple weeks. I just don't know if he's your third baseman of the future. I think there's a player there that definitely belongs on this team for the future, whatever that 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. But I don't know if he's your third baseman. And my worry is, Ed, and I appreciate it's a good call. There's just another caller waiting. My worry again is, okay, I like Durbin enough, and I like Turang enough, and I like Frelick. I like all these guys enough, but half of your lineup is slap hitters, which is fine if Yelich, Contreras, and Churio are like pushing for 35 bombs each, and they're just not. So I worry how many slap hitters can you have in your lineup? I don't need to replace all of them, but could you take one of those guys and stick in a bat like Suarez, someone who hits bombs? Like, that makes a world of difference. 608-321-1670, another call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell.
Hey, Darnell, what's up?
Hey, listen, I hate to say it and be that guy and everything, but for every Moustakas that you get, there's also a Jonathan Scope, right?
Sure.
And if you're taking a big swing, you better be right.
Would you have considered Jonathan Scope or Mike Moustakas? Now, Moustakas that's a dude with World Series experience. I think a lot of these guys, you're describing them as a mixed bag. It's because that's what the Brewers paid for. You get what you paid for. And with all of those guys, those were kind of half measures or 3/4 measures, in my opinion, Jonathan Scope included.
Well, we got Jonathan Scope, who was an all-star prior to coming to Milwaukee and then hit sub 180.
He hit that grand slam off Baumgartner, though. That was pretty sick after they hit Braun. We'll always have that.
He did. We'll always have that one time when he raised his OPS 10 points, and then it was
and then that was that.
Oh, my God. Yeah. But that's the price you pay as a small market team that's trying to go for it all, right? So you really got to weigh those pros and cons. If you're going to make a move and you're Antanasio, you're the Brewers front office here, the homework has to be done, and making a big splashy move looks really great. And, the headlines and all the clout that you get for, a couple of days. If it doesn't work out, you look like just a giant asshole.
Sure. But what if it does work out though?
I mean, if it does, that's fantastic, but it's really only worked out like once or twice for the Brewers. You know what I mean? And that would be Sabathia and Moustakas in my recent memory. I can't think of one other one that they've hit on that was like, this made a difference for the team.
What did they give up for Moustakas? I don't even remember. I think there were a couple. Was that Brett Phillips is in that trade, right?
I can't remember.
Of course you don't, Darnell. You've just come to nitpick my stuff, and then when I have questions for you, obviously you can't answer. Yeah, it was Brett Phillips and Jorge Lopez. Who is that? The Jorge Lopez who's like recently been on the Mets and the Cubs, or am I thinking of someone else?
I don't think so.
Don't answer that. You continue on your path. I'm gonna look at my thing.
No, I was just gonna say they've made some really good selling trades. Like the Gomez one comes to mind. I don't know if they've been super successful when it comes to like buying a big bat at the deadline, because they don't do it very often. But I also don't think that they've been very successful when they have done it. So I don't know. I preach caution when it comes to that. And also, a couple of the moves that they've made already throughout, like to start the year, I think have already yielded a ton of benefit, to the point where, like, at what point do you just say, all right, let's run with this? Like, it's obviously been working for not just a couple weeks, but, a month and a half at this point. Like, at what point do you just say, all right, this is the vibe that I want to have as a Brewer this year, and we're just going to see what happens, right?
You know what, Darnell? I think you like being a big fish in a small pond. That's what I'm getting. And I saw your tweet yesterday. I think you're having fun on this ride, and it's just July, so why are you even worried about it? Let's just enjoy this team, and let's not dare to dream. Have you ever heard the expression "fortune favors the bold," Darnell?
I've heard the expression.
I think they actually used that to promote crypto, which turned out to be a major bust, at least in that case. So maybe that's a bad example.
Maybe not the best example for a small market baseball team, but I understand the idea, right? And everything, it sounds great in theory. It's just that in practice it doesn't always work out. So we do know what actually does work out. We just haven't seen it in October yet. And it doesn't mean that it won't happen in October. I still believe that it's about who you catch and when you catch them in October. I don't think it's about who's on your team, because if that was the case, then the Dodgers will win in every single year.
All right. So there is truth mixed into your words, Darnell. I appreciate your call always. I do enjoy. That doesn't mean that I don't want to have better players. It doesn't mean that I don't want to add a player or a bat of significance. Mike Moustakas, by the way, Jorge Lopez, that was the Jorge Lopez, the guy who lost his mind on the Mets and then was cut and then ended up on the Cubs last year. Now he's in Washington. Jorge Lopez in his career starting in 2017 has gone Milwaukee to Kansas City to Baltimore to Minnesota to Miami to Baltimore to New York to Chicago to Washington. Brett Phillips, loved the guy. Love you mean it. Wanted it to work out. He sucked. And the Brewers got Mike Moustakas, who was a World Series champ. And then they were able to retain him the next year for a Brewers type contract, a pillow deal, which worked out. I think maybe the best Brewers team in this era. 2019 is big time slept on. And then, of course, they caught the Nationals. To your point, yeah, you got to get in and you got to get hot. Like, I agree with the bites at the apple thing. It was poorly presented and it pisses Brewers fans off, but I agree with it. I just want the bite to be as big and juicy and plump as possible. And I think there's a fine bite here, but I think we could get a little better. That's what I'm saying, Darnell. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Teacher Tom.
Hey, Teacher Tom. What's going on? Did you like that painting talk earlier in the first segment? How about that?
Yes. And I was the one who texted in saying it was spindles.
Rolling spindles sucks. Now, sometimes it beats being on a ladder, but it's just so putsy.
Yes. So I had a Packers thought, but going along with that 2019 Brewers team, my regret is that after the 2018 season, the Brewers were really high on Peralta, Woodruff, Burns, and all three were unproven. So they allowed Yolis, Chacin, and Wade Miley to sign somewhere else. And I was worried, like, how do you know that all three of these young guys are going to succeed? And then Corbin Burns was miserable. Peralta had ups and downs. So in 2019, if we could have re-signed Chacin and Miley, what may have happened instead?
Interesting. Who started that wild card game in 2019? Do you remember?
No, I don't. But I remember watching it at Brewski's on Blue Mound in Milwaukee, and the power went out in the 9th inning.
Oh, that's less than ideal. That's not going to make for happy patrons. Yeah, Trent Grisham right at the top of the box score. That I remember. Oh, Woodruff started. I guess I should have been able to guess. Yeah, they went Woodruff, Suter, Pomerantz, and then handed the ball to Hader with a lead. I wonder what happened. No chance that could have gone sideways.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Thank you, teacher. Do you want to get your Packers take off before I let you go?
Yeah.
Just be quick.
I wonder, I'm not as concerned about the Packers defense as some people.
Same.
Because how many points is the Packers offense going to score on teams this season?
Yeah.
Like last year, the offensive line was mostly good, and it should be even better this season. We brought in some new wide receivers. Like, is it 30 points plus a game this season?
I don't know, but I'm with you, Tom, and I'm going to let you go because I completely am barking up the same tree. I'm more worried about the offense than the defense. And that's not even to say that I'm like worried or scared about the offense, but you listen to sports radio or you listen to podcasts, read stories in this market in Wisconsin. It's like, how are they going to fix the defense? It's like, I don't know, man. They scored 10 points in the playoff game last year. Like, are we sure that this offense is just going to hit the ground running and be awesome? They might be. Like, they might be elite. They could be. But for whatever reason, in this market, in this fandom, we always extend the benefit of the doubt to the offense, and we nitpick the ever-living you-know-what out of the defense. And I don't know that that's reality. I don't think that's fair. One more call here, and then we'll take our break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant.
Yes.
This is your best friend, Joe.
Joe, is it really?
Yes, it is. Joe from St. Paul. You talked about painting. I had to call in.
Oh, yeah, Joe, what's up? So you actually, when I referenced painting back in 2019, you were my boss at the time. A very experienced and knowledgeable painter yourself.
El Jefe, some call me.
So you probably have enjoyed all this painting talk, I would think.
I do two things for you.
Sure.
About the painting. So I'm still in the painting game. Do sales, call people a lot. And I have a complaint for the older generation. It is so irritating when I call people, they answer the phone, and they say, "Oh, I can't talk right now."
You answer the phone.
Why do you answer the phone? Thank you.
That is a little ridiculous.
Is that something that, is it just me, or is that, I don't know.
Maybe it's just because you're calling to talk business. You know what I mean? Maybe they feel like, maybe they don't have your number saved, and then when they realize it's you, maybe then they hang up the phone.
Fair, but this isn't like cold calling. They've gotten an estimate. I'm just reaching back out to be like, hey, how's the numbers look? How you thinking? You want to move forward? Anyway, that's my first complaint.
That's a good one.
Second reason I'm calling in, I'm going to see Paul Skeens and Joe Ryan tonight. Super fun game.
So I know that you're a Twins fan. I was actually going to ask before I let you go, like, are they going to trade Joe Ryan? Because other teams, I read other teams' coverages and I see his name all the time as a player that teams want to go get.
I don't even want to talk about that. If they do, they do. Hopefully get some prospects. Twins are just, that's just the Twins. But post-game concert after the game, Nelly.
Are you
I
staying?
want you to give me your top. What do you mean?
Okay, stupid question. Sorry, I'm wasting time.
Yeah.
You want me to give you your what?
Post-game concerts after a Brewer game.
Like who I would like to see?
Give me one from each generation.
Well, I think Kenny Chesney did one once upon a time. That's about as good as it gets. I can't imagine getting
that. Is pretty good.
In terms of
pretty good.
I'll give you a Nelly adjacent because you're not going to get like Kendrick Lamar. But you know who would be great?
No, it's got to be.
What about 45 minutes of B.O.B.?
Oh,
that'd be great.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That
would be amazing.
And then like an older generation, oh man, like someone from the 90s or the 80s.
I was also thinking like an Ice Cube or like an Eminem that was kind of like a Nelly adjacent,
That's it's adjacent. Eminem doing a free concert after a game. Yeah, dude, we saw Eminem. He was just playing. It was a Tuesday night, and the Brewers had just lost to the Reds, and then Eminem came out. It would be funny. No, I think B.O.B. would probably be my take, Joe. I appreciate it. Because I feel like he's doable. He's on Nelly's level. I thought he was going to ask for my top 3 Nelly songs. I'm like, I don't know that much Nelly, man. That song goes, "Must Be the Money." That's not Nelly, is it? I don't think. Maybe it is. I'm a Just a Dream man. I like the classics. I like to feel something in here. Let's take a break. Appreciate Joe in St. Paul. He was my boss in college. Still in the painting game. Free estimates. If you want his contact information, I can pass that along. We'll take a 3-minute break. Come back. I have a little bit more Brewers audio. Brandon Woodruff talking about his rehab today on Foul Territory. So I'll give you that next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. I got a couple of Bucks things to share with you before you all get a cactus up your ass over on the live stream. Oh, NBA. Okay, well, first of all, you want me to do another 30 minutes on Alex Bregman? I suppose I could, but Ken Rosenthal did his darndest to throw a massive cold bucket of water on that today. So I'm really boxed into a corner there. And I gave you a half hour of Packers talk in the first hour. The Bucks played an NBA Summer League game last night. I watched the first quarter and then questioned not just what I was doing with my night, but what I was doing with my life. So then I went to bed. I was watching because I wanted to see Bogey Umarkovich. Let's see what the kid's got. And then he got the ball for the first time, up fake, drew a foul, go to the free throw line, and he bricked them. Oh, Giannis can't shoot free throws. Giannis in free throws is a weird thing. He's very streaky. I don't know what that was for Markovich. It's like he had never shot free throws in his life before. He clanged them both. And I'm like, I think an extra half hour of sleep would do me more good tomorrow than watching whatever this is. But Doc Rivers joined the broadcast and said something kind of interesting, and I will play that audio as an answer to Reed, who comments on the live stream. Do you think the Bucks will still try to get Chris Paul even after re-signing Rollins, or do you think they look at someone who isn't as old? Well, they might look for someone who isn't as old, but I don't think they're that worried about point guard. And I'll share some audio from Doc Rivers coming up to kind of further explain that. But first, Brandon Woodruff talking about his rehab on Foul Territory today. Give this a listen. This is personable storytelling about the process that he's gone through the last, especially 2 months as he wrapped up his rehab.
The ankle thing honestly came out of nowhere. I was getting ready for my last start, and you know what? I progressed very well. I mean, up until that point, I'd progressed very well, and yeah, it came out of nowhere. couldn't walk for 2 days basically. And then, but I mean, it was a very minor thing. You just had to get through the first week of getting the inflammation calmed down in the ankle. And once I did that, I kept throwing. I just wasn't able to push off. And so that was good. And then, that ankle thing probably bled a little bit into once I got back going, the velocity had kind of gone back down. And it's like, I'm trying everything I can to see some velo, not only personally, but because I was in a great spot before the ankle thing happened. And, I'm sure the team was wanting to see a little bit more out of me. And, I get to the end of the ankle rehab, and 12 pitches in, I get smoked with, I think it was 108 off the elbow. And that was one of those moments where, the initial shock of getting hit, it stung pretty good. But then walking back to the dugout, it was like the thought of, if there's something broken here, like I'm potentially done for the season. So I had that running through my mind going up to before I got it checked out, and thankfully everything checked out okay. Then it was just getting swelling out and trying to, just proceed again. But it was you get to the finish line twice, and then some unforeseen stuff kind of pops up. But you know what? That's life, man. That's kind of the rehab process, and blessing in disguise. Honestly, just gave me a little bit more time to work on my body, work on my delivery a little bit, and just try to get everything as in sync as I could. And hey, I was able to do that for at least one start here.
It would seem that the Brewers nailed Brandon Woodruff's recovery and rehab and return, that they did it right. And there were a couple of hangups, which may have been a blessing in disguise, which helped him perform better when he finally returned this last Sunday against the Marlins. Maybe if he comes back a month ago without that ankle, or without, taking a liner off the elbow, and maybe it's different. Maybe he wasn't quite ready, and maybe he needed that time, as he kind of alluded to. It would seem that the Brewers nailed this every step of the way with Woodruff, which further confuses me about how they've handled other injuries. Like Joey Ortiz last year hurts his neck, and they give him like 1 day off, and then he just starts standing differently at the plate. That would be like if you had a golf coach you went to and you're like, hey, I got to fix my slice, or what? I don't know, slice or cut or fade or whatever. Let's say every time you drive the golf ball, it goes to the right. And then you hired a golf coach because you really wanted to fix it. And the golf coach is like, well, just set up and then just turn yourself 20 degrees and hit it like that. And then it'll go exactly where you need it to. It's like, oh, well, yeah, that might work, but that's not, it's not why I'm here. I want to fix my swing. Last year, Joey Ortiz hurts his neck, and it's like, well, just stand a little differently and then it won't be a problem. It's like, oh, okay. Or we could fix the neck issue. It's the same with William Contreras. We had Jeff Levering on Bill's show earlier today. I knew his hand was hurt last year. Levering almost started talking about, or he did kind of mention, yeah, this has been a problem for him the last 3 years. It's like, what world am I living in where the Brewers take all the time and caution and care with Woodruff's injury, but William Contreras' hand is a bag of skin filled with crunched bones, and they're like, dude, you want to play through it? I guess that's up to you. Like, how? Why? How? Why? There's a lot of contradiction there. It's very weird. Nick says, Grant, are you excited for the upcoming All-Star game? It's almost all Dodgers. I haven't even looked at the All-Star list. Saw that McGill made it, and I was watching an interview of him during this last break. The folks at MLB Network, super happy for him. I don't know. Dodgers have a lot of big stars. Freddie Freeman making it over a guy like Michael Busch would be pretty annoying if I was a Cubs fan, which I'm not, so I guess I don't really care. It's a popularity contest, whatever. More stars on the main stage at the All-Star game's good. It's a television product at the end of the day. I don't lose sleep over it. We'll take a break. We'll come back. I got a little Doc Rivers audio for you, and I'll continue to take your phone calls on anything you want. 608-321-1670. We'll continue next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show. 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Last couple minutes here. Get fins up. Listen to a little Jimmy Buffett in the final segment. Plenty of time for your phone calls still. Plenty of time left. Wide open phone line. So if you have anything to say, you can grab them. You don't have to wait very long. 608-321-1670. Bucks had a summer league game last night. I watched the first quarter, not because I was seeking it out. In fact, I was hanging out with a friend and he put it on. So I'm like, okay, I guess he was pulling up an illegal stream, and nothing illegal. He was creatively finding a way to watch the game online. It was on NBA TV or I don't even know what channel looked like NBA TV. Found it, put it on the TV. We watched the first quarter. I was interested to see what Markovic looked like. I watched him attempt one shot. He was fouled and he bricked both free throws. Not great looking, but the Bucks sharps on the internet tell me that he did a lot of good things. I don't know. I only watched the first quarter. I'm more interested in Doc Rivers on the broadcast talking about how he plans to use Giannis this upcoming season. Get a load of this.
With Giannis, he thought I had lost my mind because he's already has the ball in his hands. But like having him bring it up every time and eliminated, you know how the whole league right now, everybody's pressuring the ball. Nobody's pressuring Giannis.
No, nobody.
And so it allowed us, even against Indiana, to bring the ball up pressure-free. You know, the most dangerous guy on our team had the ball already. And when you put shooting around that, that's where the Gary Trents and AJ Greens, like I think both of those guys are going to have breakout years for us. That's where that all came into play. So I want to pick up from that and build on it.
So he's talking specifically about the last 2 weeks of the year when Damian Lillard was out, or last couple of weeks when Damian Lillard was out. And first of all, it's classic Doc Rivers because he starts at the beginning and says, Giannis thought I had lost my mind.
Brought up with Giannis, he thought I had lost my mind.
I mean, Giannis has played point guard in his career. It's not like you're asking him to juggle chainsaws, man. You're asking him to bring the ball up and facilitate, which goes all the way back to Jason Kidd. So this is classic Doc in that, yeah, we had Giannis bring the ball up once Dame got hurt because he's starting and ending possessions. He's facilitating, right? It makes sense. But of course, Doc can't just say that. He's got to say, yeah, I mean, Giannis thought I was crazy.
Giannis, he thought I had lost my mind.
No, he didn't. Why are you saying that? Doc, again, I said this last year. I mean, I certainly don't think he's the best coach in the world. But if we're not winning titles, can I at least be mildly entertained? And Doc entertains me. It's interesting that he mentions AJ Green because I think a lot of Bucks fans would like to see more of him. And when Doc says he's going to have a career year, or Gary Trent have a career year, basically what he's describing is the environment that LeBron has flourished in forever.
The most dangerous guy on our team had the ball already. And when you put shooting around that, that's where the Gary Trents and AJ Greens, like I think both of those guys are going to have breakout years for us. That's where that all came into play. So I want to pick up from that and build on it.
He's describing what the recipe has been for LeBron for 15 years. Shooters around him. And maybe a second guy who can get a bucket, Wade or Kyrie in Cleveland. But we always talked about how the third guy in LeBron's big threes always kind of got the short end of the stick, whether it was Bosh in Miami or Kevin Love in Cleveland. I don't know so much as that it was the third guy got the short end of the stick. It's that there's room for LeBron and maybe one other creator, and then everyone else has to be a shooter. That's what works. So it's not that Kevin Love got the short end of the stick. I suppose it's semantics. He had to be a shooter because that's what's needed around LeBron. LeBron doesn't need, Timberwolves Kevin Love, down on the block doing those things. He doesn't need Chris Bosh doing Toronto Chris Bosh things. He needs someone ready to catch and shoot when the defense ultimately collapses on him, which it always does. The same is true of Giannis. So what Doc is describing is basically what's, worked around LeBron. And it's funny because teams still don't, the Lakers for a time still didn't get it with LeBron. It's like, you guys need shooting. Rob Pelinka, you need shooting. There's so much precedent going back to Miami and Cleveland. And that's one of the things that annoys me most in sports. I understand that sometimes a general manager in acquiring talent or drafting talent, we don't really know what's going to work. We have to try this. We think it'll work. Sometimes you got to take a shot and sometimes it doesn't hit. But a lot of times in sports, there's mountains of data and history and precedent to show what works and what doesn't work. We have 15 plus years, closer to 20 years, but LeBron is kind of settled in. And let's just talk about 2010, post 2010 LeBron. We have mountains of evidence that what works around LeBron is shooters. Need a little bit of creation, to help take the load off him a little, but it's shooters. Guys who can catch and make shots in big spots, which is why Shane Battier is. Love Shane Battier on that team. And I think at this point of Giannis's career with this team, so you're looking for. And Miles Turner could be that shooter. It's just that their second creator is going to be a guy who plays off of Giannis and is a 3-level scorer more than a ball handler who's beating the ball into the boards, which is what I would want anyways. I don't want, I like Dame. I wish him the best. But a guy who's used to Dame time and dribble, and jacking a crummy 3, that's not additive. And you could say, well, Giannis needs to learn to fit alongside that. Okay, but, Dame's not Giannis. LeBron should learn how to play with Kevin Love. I mean, do you really believe that? 608-321-1670. Let's take a call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Fins Up Friday. It's Uncle Packer.
It is Fins Up Friday, Uncle Packer. Happy Friday.
I am just happy the weekend's coming. But I wanted to say two things really quick. I was listening to you. This year for the Bucks, I'm hoping that AJ Green comes up and just dead-eye. He can really shoot.
He can.
We get some really good shooting off the bench. I mean, I can see people around shooting. I don't want LeBron to come to the Bucks. I want the Bucks to just build with Giannis like we're doing. I'm really excited about this next season. I wanted to say something too about our beloved Brewers.
Okay.
Everybody's talking about a bat. We need a big bat. We need a big bat. We might have a big bat. That guy with the terrible hair comb over?
Who did I talked about this with Dwayne and Oshkosh during Bill's show. I like Andrew Vaughn enough, but I don't think he's. We'll continue. What do you think about Andrew Vaughn before I?
I like the name because Ricky Vaughn is one of my favorite baseball players, but you don't know who that is because you've never watched Major League.
Stop. You don't think I've ever seen Major League? Come on. Why would you think I've never? Of course I've seen Major League.
You told me you'd never seen somebody do, it's Slapshot. You've never seen Slapshot. Which is,
Major League is
one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
Okay. Well, I have seen Major League plenty for what it's worth.
All right. But, okay. Ricky Vaughn. Anyway, Andy Vaughn. Is that what I'm calling him? Andy Vaughn?
Andrew Vaughn, yep, that's his
Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn. I like him. Look what he's done the first 3 times at bat. He's clutch for so far, and he was the 3rd player taken overall in the draft by the Chicago White Sox. So he's got potential. What happens if that just hatches, and we just have a hard-hitting backup first baseman? What's Reese going to do when he gets back? We got to.
Could be a clubhouse presence, I suppose. I don't need to see Rhys Hoskins anytime. I'm not counting down the days until his return at this moment in time, at least.
I don't get the clutch gene from him for some reason. Some guys, they come up, they just feel so clutch. Like in the 10th inning of the Dodgers game, when number 11 there, Mr. Cheerio, came to bat, I just felt like he had it.
Sure.
I just felt he was really clutch.
The funny thing is,
like
Hoskins, the idea behind Hoskins, the player that he's been, is timely home runs, which he's done except for the timely home runs mostly. He just hasn't really for any stretch of time. I mean, earlier this year he was hitting for average, which is weird. He had almost become Sal Frelick. He was slapping the ball over, and now his average has dipped back down, and you're still not getting enough home runs to justify it.
And I hugely agree with another caller that said something about keeping Sal Frelick. We need Sal Frelick, Bryce Terang. That's the core of our team. I mean, they can't do that. But they can trade Hader right after you his jersey. They like to do that for you.
Yeah.
But I'm still complaining about that after 4 or 5 years. But I just wanted to say I'm still celebrating my life next Saturday. And I want you to come if possible. And anybody else, it's just going to be a nice big yard party. And I would love to have all my fellow Grant listeners to come. You're welcome.
So you sent the information to the text line. I can pass that along to people. I actually was planning to be in the Chippewa Valley next weekend. So you have maybe tempted me, Uncle Packer.
Epic.
It would be epic?
It would be so epic. Epic. Whatever that word means, it would be awesome.
No, I think you nailed it.
That's the old man's word.
Well, we will. Do you have Facebook, Uncle Packer?
Yeah.
I do. Add me. Send me a request. We can chat.
I will. Okay. You're great.
Okay. So we'll be in. My people will be in touch with your people. How does that sound?
Hey, we'll find some Jimmy Buffett on our Fins Up Friday, and it's going to be Margaritaville. I'll make sure you get there.
I like that, Uncle Packer. We'll talk. Yeah, send me a Facebook request, and we'll chat it out, and I'll make sure that Clemhead Mike has the information as well. Maybe we could do a little Chippewa Valley get together next weekend. We will take a break. We'll wrap up with the aforementioned Jimmy Buffett and any of your thoughts on the other side from the text line or the comments TR says, please talk about Marquette. There we got our one for the evening. We'll wrap up the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Not only going out to Wisconsin and the great Midwest, we're going around the world tonight, Parrot Head.
Wisco Sports Show fins up. It's Friday. An earlier caller, Joe up in St. Paul, referenced Nelly. He's doing a post-game concert after the Twins game tonight. Asked me what my favorite Nelly songs were. And I was not sure if Must Be the Money. I was like, is that a Nelly song? Seems like it might be a Nelly song. And Teacher Tom, text line says, that is a Nelly song from his debut album. And I'm not sure how I feel about Teacher Tom knowing more about popular music than me. Feels like something I'm going to think about when I'm in the shower tonight or when I'm laying in bed trying to fall asleep. We were just talking a little bit about the Bucks, and Doc on the broadcast last night for the Summer League game saying that, yeah, we want to run the point with Giannis, AJ Green, Gary Trent Jr., guys like that are going to have big years. Here's that sound one more time.
With Giannis, he thought I had lost my mind because he's already has the ball in his hands. But like having him bring it up every time, it eliminated, you know how the whole league right now, everybody's pressuring the ball. Nobody's pressuring Giannis.
No, nobody.
And so it allowed us, even against Indiana, to bring the ball up pressure-free. You know, the most dangerous guy on our team had the ball already. And when you put shooting around that, that's where the Gary Trents and AJ Greens, like I think both of those guys are going to have breakout years for us. that's where that all came into play. So I want to pick up from that and build on it.
So I got a text that says, Bucks are going nowhere with Giannis running the point. Total failure by coaches to teach Giannis to be an effective screener in the pick and roll. Just a low-quality league. So, it's just two parts of that. This is a tweet, by the way, a text. God, I'm learning from Teacher Tom, and now I got this email here, twitter.com. So the first part says, Bucks are going nowhere with Giannis running the point. I think their best outcome will be achieved by Giannis handling the ball. And, we're making a big deal out of this on July 11th. He mostly initiated offense last year, too. If not Dame, it was him. So I don't think this is going to be a huge departure from what we've seen in the past. Giannis mostly initiates possessions with the ball in his hands. Whether he dribbles it up from the inbound to the top of the key or whether someone else dribbles it up and then passes it to him to start the possession. This is not a massive departure from the norm. And because of the Bucks roster and the way that this thing is atrophied or entrophied or whatever, I think this is their best option. Now, the second part of this tweet saying total failure by coaches to teach Giannis to be an effective screener in the pick and roll, a low-quality league. If you feel that way, that's fine. I think it's probably more of a Giannis thing. I don't think Giannis wants to set screens. He's won MVPs, right? Like, he's the guy. I don't set screens. People set screens for me. You know when Giannis set screens is when they won the title in 2021. He set a ton of screens for Chris. Zach Lowe wrote a huge story about it. You can go back and find it. I remember reading it. I remember I printed it out and I taped it to the wall behind the computer monitor. Because I said in the second round against the Nets, I said, we're going to track this. We're going to follow this. And with every round that passed, Giannis set more and more screens. I'm not saying that he needs to be laying the wood and being the screen setter every possession for all year. But I think in certain moments, I'd like for him to be a little bit more willing and I'd like for him to be better at it. Because I think he's really dangerous rolling towards the hoop. Is it a failure by the coaches? I mean, maybe. I think it's more of a Giannis thing. That's how he wants to play. And there's a lot of NBA players. I think Dame is one. We played you that clip from Felger last week, and maybe I could find it real quick, about how Giannis and Dame are maybe cut from a similar enough cloth. You can never take away Giannis's title. That's something that Dame doesn't have. But I think there's some players who are like, I want to play my brand of basketball, and we'll live with the results. Here's that soundbite from last week. We listened to this.
I also think he's kind of a loser. And I say kind of, like, it's small L. He's not James Harden. He's not Carmelo Anthony. He's not one of these guys. He's total, team killing bums. He's not. But you do wonder, is he just one of those guys that's more happy scoring 38 points with the ball in his hands for a okay team than he is being a role player and doing the little things to win on a really good team?
Maybe.
He's that first thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's how he played in Milwaukee, and that's maybe what Giannis is too. Again, I don't want to just totally blame Lillard for that because I think Giannis has unfortunately come to embody a lot of those things.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like, is it the coaching staff that hasn't taught him how to set screens? I think that goes a little bit deeper. I just don't know that Giannis wants to do it. And with most superstars in basketball, you live with their skills and their ability to make you a contender, and then you have to kind of work around some of the things that they may or may not be willing to do. This is why I love Steph so much. And it drives me nuts that more small players like him don't, kind of follow his blueprint. That bastard moves. Watch him once he passes the ball. He's flying around, impacting defenses, doing all these things. Whereas a lot of star players, if I'm not going one-on-one trying to score, I'm going to pass the ball along and I'm going to save my energy. And I think Giannis does a little bit of that. And I think his lack of interest or motivation in being a screen setter is part of that. There's probably a little ego there. And you live with it because he's Giannis. But I don't think the sentiment of complaining is wrong. Have a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday. Talk to you then.
What can we say? Thank you all very